School ASMR Club.
Yeah, let's just go with it. Sure.
Welcome back to the After School Cinema Club. I am your host, Jose, for today, joined by Dylan and Vaughn, per usual. Shout out to Vaughn's Spider-Man shirt, foreshadowing for something coming later in the week. We were gone for a minute. Good things happened. Dylan moved into a new apartment. Claps for Dylan. Dylan, how's the new
I
place?
got out of the suburbs. I love it. I love the new. I'm back in downtown Los Angeles, which I love. I'm away from the suburbs of the eastern parts of Los Angeles, which were awful.
Did you feel
And-
isolated?
Yeah, yeah. I hate driving. I've just decided I'm out on being behind the wheel of a car unless I absolutely have to be.
How do you do your groceries?
I walk.
To the grocery store?
Yep, it's a thing that lots of people do. It's a lot of things that is very, very normal.
I mean, I also know people like will buy the little wagons to like put all their groceries
Yeah.
in.
I could do that. I'm like a few blocks away. I'm like, it's a far enough of a hike where I don't really want to do that, and it wouldn't be that hard for me to just like maybe take an extra trip to the grocery store and like throw a couple stuff in a tote bag and come back. And like worst case scenario, there's things like Instacart or something like that. Yeah. I did it for years in DC. I've done it in LA when I used to live in DTLA. So it's more of just getting back in the saddle of doing that.
How do you guys do groceries? Because growing up in a Hispanic household, we would go like maybe once every 2 weeks, and it'd be like a bulk. We would spend
Goddamn.
like maybe 200 bones in just like, I mean, it was a family of three and four sometimes with my grandma, but it would just be we wouldn't go that often. We would go again like every week and a half, 2 weeks, and just buy like a big bulk thing. Which is why I'm so confused that you could just walk to the grocery store. Because if you have like bags on bags on bags of stuff, how are you going to walk to do that? You know.
So I think when I was growing up, I think my family would go, yeah, like, once every 2 weeks or something like that. I remember my dad. The East Coast has like the East Coast version of Costco's is BJ's. It's not like the sandwich shop that it is here. And so like we'd go there and like buy in bulk. But instead, like especially when I lived in DC and I didn't own a car, I would instead just go to the grocery store 2 or 3 times a week. It would be on my commute, so I would like walk past the grocery store to get on the metro, and then when I would come home from work, I would run right in, grab it, and then like immediately just like head right out and I'm home. Which when you're living by yourself is super easy. It's a little bit trickier when you live with a partner. If I were to have children, like that probably then presents in like an entirely more difficult scenario, but like I'm sure I'd be able to figure that out.
Yeah, we did. It ran the gamut. So before I lived back in DC, like before I moved back, my early years, like kindergarten through 6th grade, was all in New Jersey. Shout out to North Jersey. Shout out to Newark, Hillside, Union County. What's up? I spent all of my time with my godmother and her family, and so my godmother had 3 kids plus her plus one. She was in charge of one of her nieces. Then her sister lived in the same apartment complex, and she had 6 kids. And so like there were always about a dozen kids like the whole time, all the time. And we just kind of like were super communal for everything. So we were doing grocery runs, like massive grocery runs 2 or 3 times a week. Cause you think like a box of cereal is gone in a day. Like we were fighting. So I had that experience, but then also when it was just me and my mom, we were still going weekly. It was a part of our Sunday ritual. So we'd do church in the morning, maybe like go to like somewhere like a restaurant after church if there was like an evening service. But if not, we were coming back home doing Sunday dinner, and then that food was going to last us pretty much like through the week. And then we would do a re-up on a second meal or something like that Wednesday, Thursday.
Damn.
Yeah. So it was. a lot.
Yeah. When were y'all introduced to Trader Joe's? Because I personally have been sleeping on Trader Joe's the entire time. Just
You're
recently started shopping there.
as a California native, I'm surprised. There weren't a lot of Trader Joe's in Connecticut growing up. Um, and there were some in DC, but not like close to where I lived. So I would very sparingly get Trader Joe's when I lived in DC. Now in LA, it's like not now that I live in downtown, it's a little bit trickier because the closest is at USC, and it's just like
Mm.
that's a bit of a hike to try to figure out how to get there. Um, but it's amazing. It's super affordable. It's half the price when I go anywhere else. Um, yeah, I mean it's to me my favorite grocery store.
I hadn't been until like I moved out here, and yeah, I think it's my my best friend Jordan will say this about it, and it's true. It's too niche to actually go grocery shopping there.
Hmm.
Like if there are specific things I want from Trader Joe's, I'll go. Like I love their wraps, but other than that, and their ice cream's really good as well.
Hmm.
Ice cream
Um,
is very good.
and shout out to those the cookie. What do they call the cookie dough thing? There's like a
Cookie butter?
name.
Yeah,
Yes,
cookie butter.
cookie butter everything. But other than that, it's like not super useful for me. That being said, I do live a lot closer to said Trader Joe's over down by USC Village. Um, so yeah, I mean, sometimes, mostly my life revolves around Costco. So, and I shop at Costco like it's a regular grocery store. So I'm not going once every 2 weeks. I go to Costco once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on what I need. But all of my like leisure activities are near Costco's, so it just
Hmm.
makes sense.
Is there another Costco in DTLA? No, right? Do you have to go to the
No, we
marina?
got
Or
there's a Whole Foods and a Ralph's are like kind of the two main things. There's a
yeah,
Smart and
Smart and
Final.
Final over on Fig.
Yeah, but that's a bit of a hike for me. It is kind of like a straight shot. Like I can just kind of like take the street that I live on to get up there, but where I live, it's a bit of a walk, but it is also super cheap. But I think it's mostly going to be like a Whole Foods and like Ralph's type of situation for your boy.
Target.
Yeah, it's a hike from where I live though. Same thing. It's even further than Smart and Final.
It's an extra block. Relax.
Man, if only
Yeah,
you had like a car, you know?
it would take longer for me to drive and park and get all that than it would for me to
Because of
walk.
all the one
TBH,
ways.
like yeah, like I
And the way to get into that parking
yeah.
structure, it's a
Yeah,
night.
like it's a whole bunch. I gotta go get it validated. Who got time? Literally, who has time for that? And it's like, yeah, no. I enjoy walking. That's a thing that we do on the East Coast, despite being the health centric city that I live in. Everyone gets in their fucking car to drive a mile down the goddamn road um, because we don't invest in public transportation. Although
That's
the
big.
LAX Metro Center is opening in November, so very excited for that. But yeah, I would just prefer to walk than get in my car and do all of that.
I love it.
Um, well, what a way to break the ice, boys. Um, this
And
is
we
a fun
might
show.
use none of that.
So we've got some news to talk about that we were gone for a minute. We've got Paramount is officially merging with SkyDance. You know, another merger and acquisition. Shrek 5 coming back. Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy coming back. I want to know if Puss in Boots is coming back too. Although it sounds like with the Puss in Boots lore, I feel like they're trying to spin that off, right? Because there's like the first Puss in Boots and then the second one. We'll get to it. Devil Wears Prada sequel. It seems to be in the works. I know Vaughn is particularly excited for this.
Yes.
And then we got to pour one out for the homies. Redbox is officially shutting down after 22 years. R.I.P. Redbox. Um, I have been to a Redbox maybe 5 times. There was one by the grocery store where I used to live. And it was the thing where we saw it show up one day and was like immediately vandalized, but then immediately got like replaced. And then we just kind of like wanted to see what it was, and then I was interested because you could rent video games on there.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think like wasn't their tag like you get to rent it for like $1 or like $2 as long as you return it within 24 hours or something like that?
Yeah, I think there was like a dollar rental fee, and then you had to bring it
Mm-hmm.
back in like 48 hours, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you had the time to binge a game or something like that, it was more than enough time to knock it out.
Yeah. But I just remember it being outside of a grocery store. I know Hema used to use Redbox a lot. Because that was like their family tradition. They would go to the grocery store, and then the Redbox was there, and they would get a movie, and then they would come back and return it because it was $1. Yeah. And they saw a lot of their films that way. This is whatever was on Redbox. Um, but what have y'all's experience been with that? I guess they live in grocery stores. I don't know where else they would be.
7-Eleven.
7-Elevens. Yeah.
7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the one
Um,
back in DC that I would always go by, they always had a Redbox out front.
yeah. It seems like a thing of they just I think I used Redbox like I can count on maybe one, maybe two hands how many times I
Same.
like actually used it. And it seems like there was a world where they could figure out how to survive in a streaming era and just create an app for you to be able to rent movies. That seemed like that's a thing that they probably could have been able to do. And they just didn't, and they never changed, and they went out of business because like in a world of where physical media is like, dying a very slow death, rentable physical media died like a decade ago.
Yeah.
That died when Blockbuster went out of business, and they had a decade to try to figure that out and couldn't. And so I don't know. This seems to be like a thing of like, oh, I guess, hey, like that was a thing, and it's sad, and I'm sorry for people that may have lost their jobs or whatever, but like there was avenues to change this.
I think so I have a lot of thoughts about this, not just the Redbox
Dang.
thing, but just the experience of media. So I'll try to be brief. Sorry. The thing, I never did Redbox because I think when I first noticed it, the Blockbuster near me was still kind of open. Like they were like just starting to get ready to close down. And then, to your point, Dylan, everything else was a better option. Like, okay, I could do Redbox or I could do Netflix where I don't even have to leave my house and have these rentals come to me. I could go to a place, but then like I have a wider selection if it's like a Blockbuster or something. And I think what people wound up doing, and this is still a thing you can do, world, for people who are listening, at least in the US, go to the library. The library has movies. The library has current movies. The library has a lot of stuff that you're already paying for because taxes. But an experience I had during our break was I got a chance to swing by my comic shop that I frequent, and it had been a minute because you know it, proudly. The irony is, I don't know if it's going to make it in the frame, but just out of frame, I have this collection of OG Spider-Man comics that I got from Dylan. But the experience I had walking into the comic shop was Zach, who is the manager there. Immediately he saw me. He said, "Hey, how was the show?" Hadn't seen him in months, but he remembered that I had a show. He remembered that, like, it was just that communal experience that I absolutely adore. And while I was grateful for that moment, I was also sad that I wasn't an adult during the Blockbuster era or like the rental movie era. Cause I'm like, I totally like, I love that we have this venue, but I think about like the time I spend in the comic shop, just talking to people about stuff I know about, learning new stuff, and everybody's so chill. Like every time I go in, I will talk to 2 or 3 strangers who we all just kind of like come together and start talking about the thing. Cause we have that, whatever that common thread is. And I just hate that digital media has pushed us all back into our homes. And I think also it's the like mourning the loss of the third space, as people talk about,
Yeah.
as like another place that people go. But yeah, I hope that there is a resurgence of like physical media. I think it'll take something catastrophic like I think we might have mentioned it a little bit ago, but like some of the movies who like they'll update the version of the film because it was a digital version, and now you never know what the other thing was. Like kids are gonna watch like the end of Star Wars, spoilers, and see Hayden Christensen as a
Yeah.
ghost Jedi
Yeah.
and think that that's normal.
Yeah. Or like everything with like the episode 4, I guess, like all of the like digital additions that have happened in like weird kind of like unnecessary scenes, and like that wasn't in like the original or anything like that, and that's just like that is basically the only way really to see it unless you're like a true sicko and can find like the original tapes.
That is me. I am kids. I
Can we get a? I'm going to make an edit request. Can we get a tally for the number of times Bond feels super old?
Because I had the VHSs, and I think the VHSs had
Those
the
are still
like
before,
first computer graphics. Well, so it didn't have Hayden Christensen because those were in the. It didn't have Hayden Christensen. It had like just generic white man as Anakin. Spoilers for a 40-year-old movie. But but it did have, I think, like some of the like goofy, like awful computer animation that's in like that's in episode 4 on Tatooine. So I think that kind of like bridged the gap.
Did your VHS have that singing sequence in episode 6 in Jabba's palace?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, that shit
Yeah,
rocks.
that shit does rock. Thank you.
Yeah. Have you like do you watch Star Wars that sparingly that you have no idea what that is?
I saw the original trilogy exactly once,
Wow.
and that
In
was
theaters?
That's really surprising.
before I went in to go see Force Awakens.
Force Awakens is so
Oh,
good,
wow.
man. Force Awakens is so good.
I'm
I get
surprised
the
you were at the
references,
premiere,
but-
dude.
Yeah,
Me?
No, Vaughn.
Oh.
what I do?
Go see them in theaters.
I would like to. I just got to catch them on the re-release. I'm always doing things in May. Weirdly, I think I was like out of. Yeah, I think that was when I was on the
Big
family
Cinco de
trip.
Mayo guy.
Sure, let's go with that.
Hey, speaking of franchises, Shrek 5 coming back. Release date of July 1st, 2026. 2 years out. I didn't know. I heard rumors that they were making a Shrek 5. I don't know why it needs to be a Shrek 5. Shrek 3 and Shrek 4. I mean, yeah, sure, I guess. Are they that?
I made a
mean,
money symbol for the audio listeners.
yeah. Shrek 3 was okay. Shrek 3 probably has the best like opening scene where they're like, they're about to do it, and then someone breaks into their quarters, and he's like, "Well, somebody better be dying," and it cuts to the Frog King dying. And then Shrek 4 with Rumpelstiltskin, that was a little weird to me. I didn't really vibe with
Oh,
that
that was.
story.
I don't know if I've seen Trek 4.
You missing Shrek 4? Damn.
I've seen Shrek 4 exactly once, and I have no clue what happens. I thought that was the one where they have the Ogre Rebellion, right? Spoilers for Shrek
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
It's a labor dispute.
Yeah, they unionized.
I'm pro-union.
No, they so spoilers for Shrek 4, but they pretty much Rumpelstiltskin like shows up, and Shrek is like, "Oh, cuz Shrek's a dad." Yeah, that's right. In Shrek 3 they fuck. And so there's like baby ogres, and there's also baby donkey dragon hybrids that are like a
Yes.
thing in Shrek 4. And anyway, they're having a birthday party for the baby ogres in Shrek 4. And then Shrek's like, I don't want to be a dad. Like, this shit's like overwhelming to me. So he like leaves his birthday party or his kid's birthday party. They're triplets, by the way. They both have Shrek has triplets.
So Shrek's an absent father.
Because I think that
So
is, culturally speaking, that is like a thing that ogres do, right? Is that ogres don't raise their kids?
listen, I just watched the movie. I didn't. I'm not into the lore like that.
No, I think that was like lore established in the movie. Or did I make that up?
I don't think so. So
I'm not like a huge Shrek guy. I think the movies are good, but I don't like adore them like a lot of people like
Yeah,
my
same.
age do. Like I think they're good movies and I enjoy them, but
Shrek 2 is goated.
Shrek
I
2 is
look, I saw
amazing.
Shrek 2 in theaters when it came back out. This isn't me being like the movies aren't good. Like this is like I'm not like, oh, I don't understand why they're so popular. I just don't have that kind of like love for it for some reason. I don't know.
Anyway, Rumpelstiltskin makes no. Shrek is like
But fuck
Shrek is
that.
like the last
Yeah,
ogre.
well, fuck this guy. Anyways, all right, yeah. Have a good
Shrek's like the
podcast,
last
guys.
ogre, and he basically signs his life away, and he ends up dying. But true love's kiss.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why.
But
Other
you want
than
to
money,
watch
I
it
don't.
now, don't you?
There doesn't need to be a fifth one. I'm like, so why?
But the theme I'm noticing, and I hope I don't speak out of turn when I say this, Eddie Murphy. Because
He
we
is
just
having
had
like a
he's
Beverly
coming
Hills
back.
Cop 2. We
yeah.
had Coming to America 2, a year or 2 years ago.
Was
Um,
was that called Coming to America, or is it
yeah,
just Coming to America 2?
no, it was Coming to America, I believe,
Cool, good.
which was a misnomer because it was really about going back to Africa. But anyway, um, I think, yeah, like there was this resurgence where he did the My Name is Dolomite film
Yeah.
with Davine Joy Randolph. And he did, it was his first return or like first appearance on SNL after his departure like 20, 30 years ago. So there was like this big like resurgence of Eddie Murphy. And now we're getting all of these Eddie Murphy like sequels of projects and things.
That's cool. I can get behind that.
I wonder. I want to know what like fairy tale, like trope or fairy tale story they're gonna do, because they're all, I mean, loosely based off of the original. Like, I do forget his name. It's not Roald Dahl.
Is it
Like the
Brothers
guy who
Grimm?
made. Yes, yeah, they're all loosely based on that, and then the first one was meant to be like a Attack on Disney. Because like the Lord Farquaad, I mean, his name is Fuckwad, and he looks like the Disney CEO at the time. And there's just a bunch of Disney references in the first one, but then they just kind of kept rolling with that like fairy tale aesthetic. Because I think the first Puss in Boots had um, Humpty Dumpty. He was like the big villain in
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
Puss in
Yeah.
Boots, and then the second Puss in Boots had Goldilocks and the guy who sticks his thumb in the pie. I forget his name too, Jack something.
Georgie Porgy, right? No, no, that was Puddin' Pie. Jack Plum. No, Little
Yeah,
Jack
there you go.
Horner.
Yeah, there, Jack Horner. Yep. He's like the villain.
Voiced by
Hey,
John Mulaney. That Puss in Boots movie was
Puss in
so
Boots
good.
2, amazing.
Did you
You
catch
haven't
it,
seen
Dylan?
it? Yes,
I
seen it.
don't know. I wanted like we were going to, and I don't remember to be honest.
I also remember that film so strongly because that was where that was one of the moments the seed of this podcast got planted. Because Jose and I
Yes.
both saw it and we're like talking about it like, should we do a podcast? And look at us now. The Brothers
Look,
3.
there we go.
We'll workshop it. I don't know. Whatever.
Um, they don't. Skydance doesn't own Paramount. No, that's some. That's
SkyDance owns Paramount. No.
Skydance does own Paramount.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's what we're talking about. But I was
Ah,
thinking
yeah.
Skydance is the. They're not related to DreamWorks at all. Maybe just
I
because
don't
it looks
believe it.
like skies and
I don't think so. I think
dreams and
DreamWorks is a universal thing, but
it
I
is.
don't remember how that chain goes. I don't know who's on top of Universal.
I think Universal's on top of Universal.
Are they?
because they're one of the OGs.
Isn't it NBC? Isn't it NBC Universal?
There it is. Thank you. That is literally the
Oh, I
name.
thought, yeah. Well, I thought Universal was still like the one on top because they're OG.
I think they're both like just like that's like I think a true merger. That is like two like Goliaths coming because like they literally kept the name together. Unlike a Warner Bros. Discovery, when it's like, why does Discovery have this much power? It's fucking Warner Brothers. This is like something where it's like these are both two very, very powerful companies. Wasn't Comcast involved in that too? Like, wasn't that like a crazy merger?
Comcast, I think, merged with Time Warner first, or Time Warner bought
AT&T.
Comcast.
AT&T and Time Warner, I thought. Anyways, there's been like a lot of mergers. Let's just talk about Skydance.
Well, Skydance and Paramount are looking to merge. I'm trying to find some of the films that Skydance has done.
I can talk about it a little bit just because I listened to a podcast with David Ellison who was on the Puck podcast. Puck is like it's a media podcast for those that don't know, and they have a newsletter, and it's one of like the dailies for this kind of stuff. So for people that don't know who David Ellison is, he's the CEO of Skydance. He's like 40 years old. He's super young. His dad is Larry Ellison. And if you don't know who Larry Ellison is, Larry Ellison founded Oracle. And he's one of the richest people in the world. He's worth like $170 billion. And so his son just was like, I want to be a movie studio guy with that money, and has been pretty successful at it. And basically they went like back and forth. And the Paramount, I think she's like the daughter of the founder, was like very particular about wanting to do the merger and didn't just want to like give it to someone that's going to like completely gut it. And the cool thing with Skydance is they are privately owned because, the Ellison family is so ridiculously rich that they don't need, to be a publicly traded company because the other company is publicly traded and very, very successful. So I'd recommend listening to the podcast. The podcast called The Town. It came out like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Basically the whole time David Ellison is just talking about like growth. He says the word growth like 50 times in this relatively short interview. And it seems that he doesn't really want to gut almost anything. Did briefly talk about that maybe Paramount Plus might die or might get merged into something else. But even as we say that, like they're still signing deals to like more things to be on Paramount Plus, so they might just merge with another streamer. But I'm kind of excited about it. Skydance has been pretty well run for the most part, and so for me, it's something that they do video games, they do movies. So it's stuff that I'm excited about. They do most of the Mission Impossible stuff.
Yeah, I was looking through the films for Skydance and Paramount. They're honestly very similar. It's like big name actor, gritty face, and a gun. It's like Gemini Man, Adam Project, Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher, Ghosted, G.I. Joe, Mission Impossible. These are all Skydance films. And in Paramount, it's like A Quiet Place, Civil War, Killers of the Flower Moon, Interstellar, Super 8, Top Gun Maverick. Like these are all very similar films in my opinion. And it would make sense to quell the fears of the daughter of the person who owns Paramount. Like if Skydance is doing stuff like this, Paramount films would just fit right in for sure. There's a movie by Skydance called Skydancers. That's funny. Oh, the first one's called Skydance, 2002. It's a short film. It's like an airplane thing. And then the sequel, Skydancers. Yeah.
But yeah, it's in the world of mergers that are like normally very bad. This is one where I think there's a lot of potential to be good. And I think because it's not a publicly traded company, I think you're looking at what's going on right now at Warner, and it's like a absolute disaster.
Yeah.
And like for people that maybe if you're listening, maybe don't understand, Warner Brothers was the studio. They weren't just a studio. They were the premier studio. That is what every director would want to work with and everything. And now they are like a shell of themselves. like looking to sell the company off for parts. And it's just kind of like it can get really bad sometimes with these mergers. But this feels like one where there's so much financial backing from the Ellisons that I do think that this is something that is actually like mostly probably for the best.
I think for me, it's always tricky because there's being in the city of Los Angeles, where a lot of these studios have offices, that ultimately will mean that, if there's two heads of a department from Skydance and then from Paramount, well, they can't be co-heads of the department like that. Jobs will be lost, is like what my first immediate thought is. And that sucks. I mean, that's, part of the business part of all of this, but that's where my brain is stuck right now. It's just like, gosh, all the people who have jobs, especially I think about folks at Paramount specifically who have gone through this time and time and time again. Because I think, there's the CBS Paramount merger and then the Viacom, and like there are all these moments. And I'm just like, these people, these poor people who have constantly been fighting for their lives and most likely, losing their jobs at some point of the 4 or 5 mergers that this company's gone through in the last like 10 years.
I do think the slight difference of this though is like Skydance is nowhere near as big of a company. They're just rich. Like it's not, so it's like, it's in that way, I feel like people are going to lose their jobs. Obviously there's going to be redundancies in like some way, but I do feel as though like it is going to be a little bit different than what you would traditionally see, where it's like there's a merger and then it's just like, all right, we're cutting like 30% of the workforce and just like at the knees. Like it feels like there's going to have to be some shuffling, but it's not like Skydance has a massive like administration worth of people. Like I don't know how many employees they have, but it's probably like nowhere near as much as what you would see at Paramount.
Very good point.
I do want to mention my condolences for the Halo TV show that got canceled on Paramount.
Now I'm glad.
I heard season 2 came back better.
It did.
No, it was like a bunch of like buzz because the trailer looked good, but like no, that made me so frustrated, man. That's a sci-fi show that they just reskinned on Halo. That really frustrated the hell out of me. There's not a lot that gets me like bothered, but Halo is like a core institution for Dylan. And
I see.
And there's like the video game's already a disaster, and I've made my peace with that. Halo Infinite campaign is good, but yeah, man, it's so easy to make it good.
They fixed the multiplayer.
The gameplay's good. The gameplay's good. There's just no one plays it, and there's not a lot of content for it. But the gameplay's good, and that's really all that matters.
I will say, season 2 had sequences that were clearly like meant to keep the fans along, but yes, the show was not good. I will be the first to admit that the show was not good. I enjoyed it because it wasn't good. It was a -8 on the parabola.
Ooh.
It was funny. It was a bad show, but as a fan who doesn't have a lot of good adaptations of Halo, I will take what I get. I will take what I can get.
Yeah, I don't know how the lore works in the show, but like I think in the games, Master Chief is like a teenager, and he was like having sex in the show with like a human woman that was a bad person. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
non-canon.
Is it non-canon? Is that kind of how?
Yeah, 100%.
That's cool. I can get behind. There should be more of that. There should be more of that. I'm like all behind that, to be honest. That I can get behind.
The expanded universe.
Yeah, there should be like. As a comic book fan, you're so used to that. And like just to go on a little tangent, like I don't know if you've seen the stuff about the Acolyte, just like people getting mad because Star Wars fans are the fucking worst. I don't think the show really looks good, but there's a scene where like they're turning like the lightsaber like red and like they're bleeding like crystal and like people, and like people are like freaking out because that didn't happen when like Anakin did it, and it's because like in the lore it wasn't a thing when that movie came, and it's like all of it is like perfectly explained. And it's just so funny. It's just like Star Wars fans being the fucking worst, despite the fact that every single thing in that scene is actually like completely makes sense canon wise. And it's like there should be more stuff where it's like just let it be weird. Let them have this weird other universe where it's like this other thing, and that I would totally get behind. versus me just being like, I don't know. There needs to be some resets, I feel like.
Yeah.
I, for one, like the idea of bleeding, but only in the video game canon. Because there's spoilers for the second Jedi game, but there's a scene where the villain bleeds his lightsaber, and I think is done amazingly well.
It's God.
It's amazing.
Everything about those games are so good, man.
Big fan.
But
Big fan.
from what I saw on Twitter, it looks like Darth Vader had to go through his own bleeding process anyway. So these like Star Wars nerds who are mad about the show, they don't know enough about their own canon to know that there's actually an even bigger event that crosses Anakin over to the dark side. Because dare I say, welcome to the After School Star Wars Club. The fact that he was able to turn on the Emperor, seeing his son being tortured, still, I mean, that's kind of like the whole point of his arc, is that there's still that good Anakin in him. So even though he kills kids, it's not necessarily like bad enough, you know? Like he hasn't crossed that threshold because there's still that little piece. It's bad.
Right there, real quick.
It's bad, but from what I understand, in the comics, he has to go on this like self-guided journey, and like he almost dies to bleed his lightsaber red. Like that to me tells me that he has to. That to me tells me that he had
to. Kyber crystal thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you bleed
the kyber. You have to like bleed the. You have to like pour a bunch of hate into the kyber crystal in order to like break it and turn it red, which is referred to as bleeding. Like that process is referred to as bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're a bunch of fucking nerds, and for no one listening anymore, sorry, but yeah.
When do we get Cal Kestis? That's my only Star Wars question.
Oh, it's the video games. You gotta play the video games.
I know, but
takes place
live action.
It takes. I'm all for it. It takes place kind of in an area where there's not a lot of live action Star Wars content. It's like between the prequels and the OG movies, so kind of takes place like smack dab in the middle of that.
But it's before like Andor and like Rogue One.
Yeah,
because Andor and Rogue One's like right at the cusp of Episode 4.
And this has been the After School TV Club.
After School Franchise Club.
Last bit of news, Vaughn, I'll let you take it away here. Devil Wears Prada 2, allegedly in the works. One of your
Let's
favorite
do
movies.
They're bringing everybody back. What do you mean, Dylan?
For the audio listeners, he did a thumbs down.
Things can stand alone. I love The Devil Wears Prada. I know it's one of your favorite movies. There's a world where this is good. There's a world where this is absolutely awful, and it sullies the name of a great movie. And like,
but it doesn't, because that movie still exists. You can still watch Devil Wears Prada if that's all you want to watch.
Fair. I'll concede that. But not everything needs a legacy sequel.
But
what?
A legacy sequel?
I've never heard that term before.
That's like the new term for like what these like movies that are like the sequel that has really nothing to do with the original, to any real degree. Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
There is a lot of opportunity for this film to have a lot of great relevance. They've already done The Devil Wears Prada, the musical, by the way. So it's not like it's new in the world of having spinoffs or finding new life. It is a beloved series, or beloved, I guess not series, but
franchise.
I want to say franchise, but that's not quite right either. Yes, IP. It's a beloved IP because book, movie, musical, now sequel. I will not take credit for this at all, but one of the podcasts I was listening to who did report this news as well started like speculating about what the plot could be about. And in a world where we know the first film, is in the early 2000s, now we're in the 2020s and digital media has taken over. And we know that Miranda Priestley was like a giant in the print media world, but like, what could it look like if Emily and Andy are both like killing the game as like digital like editors, and we're watching like Miranda like need their help or like struggle to survive and like see things like flip on themselves and like see those dynamics shift dramatically where like Miranda as a figure has a lot of power and then the fashion world has a lot of power but does not know enough of the tech world to be able to keep up. So there's a lot of potential for it to be really interesting.
And maybe like a toxic workplace Me Too kind of situation. You know, she gets canceled. It has to do like a whole other kind of line. You know, becomes a big right winger. It's all there.
Yes, I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for anything they do. Devil Wears Prada. And now that like fashion has shifted so much, and there were so many specific fashion Easter eggs in the first film, that now with how much the landscape has shifted, not necessarily just with the fashion, but with like the idea, like now we have influencers as a concept. That's not something we had before. Like I'm just eager to see what influencers, like I think of Wisdom K, who is just like this. You've probably seen him before. He's this like tall guy. He doesn't talk much, but he just like will do his take on different like properties. So he did like a high fashion version of like The Kids Next Door, and did like, and so you would see like the character thing.
I've seen his videos. Yeah.
Yes. So like him doing stuff, or him being not necessarily a big character in the film, but maybe he's just a PA we see in one scene, or like he's the person that brings Miranda her coffee, or a new assistant, or whatever. But like there's so many people that could have these like drop-in appearances to help bring in the newer audiences, in addition to those of us like myself who love the IP already and will be signing up anyway.
I hope it's good. I want it to be good. I'm a big I sometimes like a less is more approach. I love when something like Watchmen happens, Watchmen the show, and it's like there's a world where that's a 4-season, 5-season, 6-season show, and instead it's 1 season, and we can just think about like all the different possibilities. It's kind of like my same take with The Bear. I love The Bear. I haven't finished season 3. The Bear could have ended after 1 season. The Bear could have ended after that, and we could figure out where that show is going to go. And then FX like kind of put a gun to Christopher Store's head and was like, "Nah, you have to make all of these in like with a shoestring budget and in the next day. And here's 4 cents and some random B-roll shots of Chicago, and I figure it out."
You have 24 hours, a draw 4, and 73 cents. Good luck.
And they're making one of the best shows on television out of it. But it's like sometimes it doesn't need that. Like I don't need a 3rd or 4th season of The Bear. I get it. I don't like. There's a world where you can make it interesting. You know.
I will say, just to go back to your first point, when the Watchmen series came out, people were already feeling burned based on the Watchmen movie because they didn't like what happened with the original IP being the graphic novel Watchmen.
Yeah.
And the Watchmen show was fantastic.
And I think the movie, and I'm not really a huge Zack Snyder guy, I think the movie's honestly pretty good. Like, I think it nails all the comic book aspects. I don't like Zack Snyder's style, but that is like probably the most perfect use of it. You know, other than like the change they made, which I understood because it seemed very hard to have the thing that happens in the Watchmen graphic novel happen in, you know, on live television. Props to the TV show for being able to do it. But like, it's one of those things of like, I understand why the changes were made and why people got like big mad.
Yeah.
So the
Touch
TV
grass
show is different than the movies?
Specifically the final event.
Have you seen the movie?
No.
Okay, well, basically, yeah, I'm not even gonna say it. It's fine. They just swap the catastrophic event to what it actually happens.
Did you see the series?
They went from like 9/11 to like something else.
Have you seen? Yeah. Have you seen Bond's question? Have you seen the TV show?
No.
Dang.
Okay.
No, but now I'm interested.
Watch The Watchmen.
Yeah.
And honestly,
movie's solid. TV show's better.
Who watches The Watchmen?
Yeah.
It's on HBO, right?
It is. Check it out on Max. It's not HBO Max. It's just Max because mergers.
But it's an HBO show on Max.
On Max.
Oh, it was an HBO show.
Yeah,
Oh,
Damien Lindelof, who did The Leftovers, he did Lost. Might have a Star Wars thing coming out. One of my favorite writers. Briefly saw him at Vaughn's show.
Yes, he did come see my show, and he said very nice things to me about my performance.
And posted about him on Instagram.
Yes.
wow.
One of my favorite writers. Yeah. This was the After School of Damien Lindelof Club.
Well, film of the week this week. I don't know if we touched on it earlier. Twisters,
Yes.
a Lego sequel. From what I'm
Hey.
just a Lego sequel. It's the
Yeah,
first
you
time
said
I'm
it.
hearing about
Perfect.
this. Yeah,
Well done.
This just in. New term. Legacy sequel.
Lego sequel.
I have our class roster, if you will.
Yes. I was just about to hand it off.
We have director Lee Isaac Chung, who you may remember from Minari. He also directed an episode of Mandalorian. As far as writing goes, screenplay is by Mark L. Smith, who, as I looked at his previous work, there wasn't a long list of things. Most iconic was The Revenant. The story here, though, was by Joseph Kosinski, who you may remember from Top Gun Maverick, Tron Legacy. He's also directing F1, a new film coming out. And then this film is starring. I just stuck to our main two cast members because there's a lot of ensemble stuff happening. Shout out to Katie O'Brien. But we had Daisy Edgar Jones, who you may have remembered from the Crawdads, Where the Crawdads Sing and the War of the Worlds.
Oh my god! Yeah,
There it is.
the book was better.
Love that. Shout out to the After School Book Club. And this was also starring Glen Powell, small actor.
Who?
You may not have seen him in anything, but he did do The Hitman. He was also in Top Gun Maverick, Hidden Figures, a lot of stuff. He is the guy right now. He was also in Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney. And that's where I left it because I was like, I could go on and on and on, but I'll leave it there. Non-spoiler thoughts, gentlemen. What do you got?
Fun and goofy, and I loved it.
Yeah, I'm surprised you left off Anthony Ramos, dude. He was in Transformers.
I did leave off Anthony Ramos, and I should not have.
Wow. Get him.
Apologies, Anthony Ramos, who, gosh, oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm just remembering. Now I'm like feeling really, really bad about it because I did have a note about him from the film where I was wondering, is there a way, is it possible that Anthony Ramos is playing the same person in all of the movies he's in because of the tie-ins and the experiences he mentions that his characters have and knowing where his characters leave off from? We'll get to it at the spoilery part. But yeah, I'm sorry for leaving out Anthony Ramos. Shout out to Puerto Rico, I believe. For me, I liked it.
Non-spoiler thoughts. I liked it. Liked it too. Movies are back. This is was it Bad Boys 4? It was like a summer blockbuster movie. Twisters, another summer blockbuster movie. I've seen some of the like marketing for it with like the signs upside down and like the cars and like the buildings and the billboards, like classic blockbuster sort of like marketing is back. Movies are back. I loved it.
I specifically enjoyed this is the tiniest, well, not even really a spoiler. Within the first scene, they give a little hat tilt or head nod to some of the content from the first Twister movie, which I was telling the boys earlier. I saw Twister in theaters. Where
did that
the
movie
counter
come out?
is, just let it tick. Would you say, Dylan?
What year did that movie come out? Was it the mid-90s?
I want to say 96, maybe 97.
Damn.
So I was 8.
I was 2 or 3.
I was
Mm-mm,
nowhere
mm-mm.
to be found.
In utero.
patiently
96.
waiting.
Yeah, 96. Twister.
Dang. Yeah, I was
Wow.
learning how to walk and talk. I feel like that's a rough movie for an 8-year-old to see, no?
And
Yeah, I was
oddly
thinking that
enough,
too.
as sensitive as I was and as I generally am to content, I don't remember being weirded out by seeing Twister.
Was it like, because I know that like disaster movies used to be way bigger, and this is kind of the first disaster movie that I can think of in a minute. Was it more like a
Hmm.
stressful, or is it more like kind of fun? The only thing I know is the cow. The cow scene is the only thing I know of that movie. So it's kind of like I don't really, I don't know how to do a temperature check on it.
Um, from what I remember, because I have not gone back to rewatch Twister since I think I saw it when I was 8, so almost 30 years ago. Um, it was, yeah, I think it was stressful, but I think, yeah, at the age of 8, it was like, haha, cow in the air. Like
Yeah,
that was interesting to me. And I didn't have enough to be able to keep up with the plot necessarily.
yeah.
I actually like reread the plot before I went in for Twisters and was like, oh yeah, okay, I guess that's what they were up to. I remembered that it had Helen Hunt in it.
Hmm.
I couldn't remember the guy's name, but it was Bill Paxton was the guy, was the lead in that as well.
Oh, dang, I didn't know that. God, he
Um,
was in his bag in the 90s, huh?
truly.
That's
And I
crazy.
remembered a specific scene about people being like, "We're super hungry. Like, where are we gonna eat?" And they were on somebody's cow farm. And the next scene, like it was like a quick cut to them sitting at the table eating steak. I was like, "Oh, I know enough about how this all happened." And I just remember thinking, because I was a big back even back then, um, God, that steak has to be so fresh. Like, I wonder, like that's got to taste amazing. But those were my takeaways. Yeah, like cow and steak.
I feel like for a more mature audience, um, disaster movies back then, I, in my opinion, were treated more like horror movies because it was feeding into that sort of like what if, right? Because I mean, 96 is still 4 years off from Y2K, but from what I remember, people were freaking the fuck out. Or from what I've heard, people were like crazy about Y2K and like this is the end of the world. This is going to be so catastrophic. And then fast forward to 20 years later where we have a Y2K with Microsoft computers. Anyway, um,
Nicely done.
Topical. I didn't know that
if
Y2K was like serious until I like 5 years ago. I didn't realize how actually grave that situation was. I just thought it was like a coding error, not that like literally all computers were just gonna like fucking melt
but
off. Yeah.
Uncharted territory. And yeah, I don't know
yeah,
why the
There should have
hysteria.
been some forethought.
Yeah.
They should have realized that it's going to hit the year 2000 and that they need to recode all of this.
I remember because for me culturally, I go to church often, but also every New Year's Eve I'm in church for the thing we call Watch Night Service. Shout out to Black churches,
I was going to say, is
and
that a thing? But I guess it is. There you go. You just said it.
yes,
Yeah.
we can cover that when we get to our New Year's episode and we talk about movies that are all about the holidays. Um, I remember the stress. There was like an aura, it was like a
mm.
heaviness around Y2K. Like that night, like the prayers, we were praying extra hard that night. And
Shout out
yeah,
to
that's
Vaughn
like
and his
the thought
church
that's like,
because we're here. Your prayers were answered.
Was
you're
that in
welcome.
Newark?
No, I was in DC at the
I'm in
time.
DC.
Yeah, I got back. Oh wait. Oh no. So holidays we still always did in DC. So I do remember being in DC for that one, and then I moved back to DC that summer.
But yeah, I feel like culturally, people liked the idea of like a horror disaster movie because it's like this is obviously still pre-internet, and maybe the internet's slowly starting to be adopted, but people are not connected and people are still in their own kind of world. And so seeing a tornado in like California, for example, you're like, holy shit, like I've never seen a tornado before. Is it really like that? So maybe that was the appeal before. It was like, oh, let's go watch the horror movie at the time, because the one that I remember as in a similar vein was Volcano, because I think that one takes place in LA, and I think my mom was like,
Volcano.
"Yeah, you haven't heard of Volcano?
Was it not called Heat?
No, Heat.
No,
I think is a fire. That's the crime movie.
That's a crime movie.
Okay.
Amazing, by the
Tommy
way.
Lee Jones and
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones.
yeah.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
is
it's
there?
called
I think
Volcano.
I've seen that movie. I didn't know it was literally
Yeah.
called Volcano. Is there a scene where they like go into the water and it's like poisonous or like acidic or some shit?
I
Is that a
think
different
so.
movie?
There's a scene where like the firefighter steps in the lava and he just melts.
That I don't remember.
But I think
I don't know if that's how lava works. By the way,
it doesn't.
I don't know.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
First of all, convection will get you long before the actual lava does.
But it came out in '97, so I'm assuming they were capitalizing again around that like horror aesthetic of like a natural disaster. But that's the one that I remember my mom showing me was Volcano, because it takes place in LA. Because a volcano comes up in LA because fault lines. Anyway, that's the only reason why I would see people back then watching the movie and people like going actively to the theaters to go watch a disaster flick. But now that everybody's so desensitized, we don't really have that now, unless you consider like slasher films, or not even slasher films, because you could find some gory shit online. Maybe like more grounded horror films.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
I can't
stuff
really
is
think of a
moving more
parallel.
towards like a long legs where it's like haunting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, occasionally you get like a mech scene where it's like more fun slashery vibes, but yeah, it feels like now horror movies are trying to be like legitimately terrifying, or just jump scare porn.
Which I don't go for at all.
Yeah, I don't go for either, but especially not the jump scare porn. It's the laziest shit ever.
Did y'all ever go back and see the original Twister by any chance, or like know
never
anything
seen
about
it.
the original plot?
Nope.
Cool.
I saw it when I was a kid.
Super quick rundown. It's in this part I did remember about it, which was that they wanted to be able to get data about how tornadoes worked to try to help people.
That's a interesting through line.
And so the technology they were working on, it was like a bin of tiny robots that would help them map the tornado from inside, called Dorothy. And that there were like different versions of Dorothy that they were building throughout the film.
Oh, what a callback! I didn't know that. Okay, interesting.
And so all of that to say, yes, I loved that. Like I did the I did that little summary and then went and saw the film, and immediately was like, yes, because I did remember seeing Dorothy, and like as soon as Anthony Ramos was like, I've got this thing, and I was like, hell yeah, well done. You don't have to do anything else. I don't need any other cameos. This is enough.
That's like the perfect use of it. I also thought that maybe the mom was like one of the characters. That's the only other thing that I don't think she is.
I don't think so either. I can't confirm, but I don't think so.
Yeah, like I recognized her face, but I don't know if it's just because she just like looks like an Oklahoma mom. Like it's just one of those things where it was just like, this is really good casting, or if like I like was like looking through her filmography and like none of it was really, from what I remember, sticking out. But
yeah. The other general thought I have, and this is less to do with the movie and more to do with the marketing. And this is like, I don't know what kind of reach we're having. I'm not super interested to know. But in that, I mean, I know I'm a sensitive soul, and I know after what I said about kinds of kindness that may have us slanting in a certain way or have people painting me in a certain light. Concern I had having seen this film, especially the first like 20 minutes of it, was my immediate thought was the idea of all of these Twisters machines at the, like, I frequent AMC. And the idea that like there's this like fun experience you get to have of like what it's like to be in a Twister, and I assume it's just like a wind tunnel type thing, and just like strong wind in your face for like 5 seconds. But I was just thinking, like, what is the equivalent of this for like any other disaster? Like, it's fun and it's cutesy here, but like, what about people who did get sucked into a tornado and survived, or people who were from the Midwest and
Entire towns that are just like
yeah,
ravaged.
like once I saw the film, I was like, oh no, twisters are big bad things. Why are we doing like making such light fun of this?
So that's
It's a big,
that's something.
big coastal elite energy.
Yeah, seriously, that was my thought. I was like, we on the coasts have no idea what this is like.
And also, this is the most for the heartland fucking movie I have ever seen. Like this, like the whatever the song where it's like you can't spell like home without Oklahoma,
Home without
or you can't spell Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like I want like, oh my god, it is like
It's just not true. It's literally not true.
is there no? There's no E in Oklahoma.
There's
right?
no E in Oklahoma. Having been in the musical Oklahoma, there's no E in Oklahoma. No, there's a song in the musical Oklahoma where they spell the state Oklahoma. There's no E.
Yeah. This is the most like for the heart. Like they're like it's coming after us. Like it's just. I'm glad that people like it. I hope it makes a ton of money. It is goofy. It's fun. But yeah, some of the most for the heartland shit I've ever seen.
I'm like going over my notes to see if there's any other fun, non-spoilery things to mention.
Yeah,
There's
I don't know.
Spoilery stuff I do want to mention, but sorry, you go, Jose.
I don't know if I for one am describing this movie as fun. And as I walked out of the theater, Emma was like, "You thought that was fun? People died," and I'm like, "Yeah, but
Oh,
it was goofy, you know."
come on.
So
fire. Okay, hold on. Let me spoilers. I'm gonna hold it.
Yeah.
what I will say is we do get just from, and you get this from the trailer, so trailer spoilers.
Oh yeah, true.
You have two sides of it. There is the very serious side, which is Daisy Edgar Jones's like characters, like Kate, I think her name was. You have Kate's side of things, where it's like, this is, I'm a scientist and I'm just in this for like the meteorology, which is the same vibe that the first movie had, where everything was very serious. And then you have Glen Powell's side, where like he's an influencer and he's got.
I'd subscribe.
Like,
I'd subscribe. I'd buy a shirt.
I would subscribe as well, just to like check it out. But like, he's a person who finds a thrill.
You feel it. Chase it.
What was the last part of it?
Ride it?
That was chase it.
Is it chase it? If you feel it, yeah. I don't, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, if you feel it, chase it because it plays into
Chase
the,
it because the.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, what do you do with your fears? You ride them. That's the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's totally doing a fun thing with it, and yeah, I think fun is fair. Yeah, there's a lot of serious.
The John
stuff
Wick
that
movies are fun. A million fucking people die. Like, you
happens.
know,
The count is so high. I had a blast every
the
time.
Guardians movies, a bunch of people die. Like,
This is a bit more grounded, though. You know.
fair. Nah, people
This-
from Oklahoma aren't real. No, I'm kidding. That was a total fucking joke. Do not.
Yeah, Oklahoma doesn't exist. Texas is just bigger.
Red River Rivalry. Y'all don't fucking watch college football. I got it. Yeah, sorry. University of Texas, University of Oklahoma. They play each other every year.
They have a
Red
they have
River
a
Rivalry.
big thing. Mm.
Yeah.
Red River.
Is the river red because of blood?
Oh,
Who knows?
twist. I'm ready to jump into spoilery things.
Yeah.
I'm down. You have been warned.
Spoilers from here on out. Fire tornado.
That shit was
Literally-
fucking.
That hilarious. You can't tell me that's not fun.
With a
You
little
can't
bit of
tell-
lightning. With some lightning like splash in between.
Like if you told a kid, draw me a tornado, and they had like a red crayon, they'd make a fire tornado with lightning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That shit's like straight out of Elden Ring. Like it was some like yeah. I loved it.
high fantasy shit.
I also can't believe how good everything for the most part looked. Like on the
Yeah.
Twister side, the Twisters looked so good. All the stuff with like the water tower looked real bad, but all the Twisters looked unbelievable. Like I could not believe how good it all looked, how realistic it all looked. Yeah,
That very first Twister, when she was still like a college student or whatever, that set the tone, like in a
Yeah.
big bad way.
yeah. I dug it.
And I don't know, a part of me, and this is why I don't like trailers as much, or like having movie knowledge as much, because part of me was looking at the initial group and I was like, okay, I know I've seen Anthony Ramos in a couple of clips. I don't remember any of these other people. Well,
Yeah,
I'll
I was
check it out.
Yeah, because like I always just think of the guy saying like yelling, "We got twins," and I'm like, none of these. This doesn't match any of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could also go with like obviously name recognition and like just face. Like, okay, that's the main character and that's Anthony Ramos. These guys all don't have names and I don't know who they are. So yeah, they're not gonna make it.
I absolutely hated that the brown guy died first. Terrible shame. Set the tone. And I genuinely thought that 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 light skinned boyfriend that she had, I thought he was gonna make it.
I thought the other blonde was going to make it too.
Oh no, she was never gonna make it.
See, for
She's
whatever
in there with the
reason, I
glasses.
was just
She's
like,
not gonna make it.
Yeah.
I just for some reason that person, I have no idea who she is. I feel like that person is going to have a very successful acting career. Like while I was just watching it, I was just like, oh, this person has like some kind of like, I don't know, they have something. So I just thought this was going to be like their kind of breakout, and then they just fucking bloop whoop.
Yeah. And I thought based on like getting under that underpass and then anchoring to the thing, I was like, okay, yeah, they're good. But then, fast forward to the other tornado that they got caught in, where they like jumped into, I guess it was like a pool area, like under like ground level or whatever. It really did show you just how like the slightest bit, if there's a small current that can get under you, you're done.
Yeah. Because that poor hotel worker or hotel clerk just oof. Yeah.
God.
But that night tornado too was so fucking terrifying in the rodeo. That one is probably a close second to the first one that sets the tone as like the most daunting tornado in the entire movie.
Yeah. And this whole movie, twisters aside, reminded me. So from an Avatar: The Last Airbender standpoint, like I've always been a big airbending advocate. Like that is the bending for me. And this was like justice for airbenders the world round, because it don't take much to like snatch you up. Thank God the airbenders are peaceful.
Counter. It's not the air that gets you, it's all the debris. I think the debris is what ruins a lot of the things around it.
I would argue if the air scoops you 30,000 feet in the air.
It's the air. It's the air.
Yeah. But the people died under the overpass because they got hit with debris. Like the blonde girl got hit with like a tree. No, the blonde girl got hit with a tree and her boyfriend got hit with something too.
Oh, I see what you're like. The debris is like what?
Yeah, the debris that's being picked up by the air is like a bit more deadly than the air. I mean, the air obviously, yeah, if you get sucked up, because I mean,
the air moved the debris. One could argue.
Yeah. You want to be an airbender?
I'm a waterbender guy.
I definitely wouldn't want to be a firebender.
And does that align with our astrology signs?
No.
He's a fire sign.
Oh,
if Vaughn was a firebender, I wouldn't be friends with Vaughn. And I love Vaughn. But I would like say the wrong shit and you would like burn my face off. I'd like say the wrong...
No, I mean, I can be reckless. So I might like firebend a ball like near.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You'd be like, what? And it would just be like, shh. Yeah, I don't. It'd probably water. I don't think earth. Like that'd just be a hassle. Like I gotta get to got to get the grocery store real quick. I just fuck up Broadway for 3 blocks.
Just
Like,
put it
who does
back
that
together.
mean?
Also fix it.
Just put it back together.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. But the problem is, you absolutely know, especially being in LA, people would not fix their shit.
No.
Like poor historic core would be like bikes. I'm like, God damn it, they gotta like like it'd just be a disaster. It'd be a
They just have
disaster.
to do
I call that
off-road
creating
ATVs.
jobs. Creating jobs right there.
But
You're
yeah,
the Pete Buttigieg of this this world.
Anyway, back to the movie.
question, yeah, about the I guess the inciting moment, or like the problem that we have to fix from the jump, which there is a name for that thing, or the inciting incident. Did the science make sense to y'all for the like we're gonna get the solution up into the air and mix it in this very particular way to cool off? Like, I knew enough about, like, so tornadoes, for anybody who's not super aware, it's when I think there's a discrepancy, at least, between cold air and hot air being in the wrong sides of where they should be. So that as those airs pass by each other, it creates that vortex, which turns into a tornado. But the like weird sand diaper solution thing that they were talking about,
I like understood it while watching. Like, I understood the context clues that they were giving me. They did very much seem to like hand wave the science purposefully of like, this is so confusing. We're going to use all these big words and like people don't understand it. But I got it. I was like, yeah, that thing's going to go up in there and it's going to somehow like calm shit down. And like, I got it. I didn't need like a fucking Bill Nye to come out and like explain all of it.
yeah.
I'm in a family of scientists. I'm the lone creative, so it's like it's just not my thing.
Yeah, it was enough like jargon, I feel like, to make it sound real. And again, yeah, to Dylan's point, in the context of the movie, it makes sense to me. Like, even the simulation helps, and having like a visualization of like what's happening helps you understand like just what's going on. I thought that it was just meant to like suck more air in. Well, yeah, it's meant to suck more water into the warm side. So then it equilibriums, and they call it the creating an anvil or something, because in like the climax, there's like that scene from like overhead where the clouds just like fall down, because I'm assuming like the pressure becomes equal. But I mean, that all made sense to me. Just, following along. Yeah.
Right on.
I wonder I honestly was wondering how accurate it could be, and if anybody's like tried to do it before. I'm assuming so, but at the same time, like, it's a movie, so maybe not.
Yeah.
I felt like I learned a lot about tornadoes watching this, and like maybe it's not true that like no, it's like there's not a lot of science behind it, or like we don't really understand why. It seems like a very difficult thing to study.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I don't know. It did, and I guess they are probably happening more, right? Like
Global warming.
climate change. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which was an interesting take, now that you mention it, because we have this like disaster movie about a natural disaster, and it is linked to climate change, but because we're talking about the heartland, that like doesn't play as well there, so we're not saying climate change ever in the whole movie.
You're saying it's a once in a generation tornado storm, but
They've
been saying once in a generation like every year.
They
like when Texas
don't
froze
mention climate change once. They don't say it once.
Not to my
They
knowledge.
say it's
It's
happening
like
more frequent.
It's happening more frequently.
Yeah, it's a once in
Welcome
a
to the
generation
conundrum of
thing. Yeah.
American politics.
Yeah.
God, why does this keep happening more? Oh my God, what a weird.
It's because God is punishing the woke mob
The woke mind virus that killed my son.
in Oklahoma.
I also liked a smaller little note. I like the callback, the additional callback to Dorothy from the first film, being that once Anthony Ramos got his like company up and running, that all the trucks were other characters from Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I obviously understood that they were Wizard of Oz characters, but I didn't put that together.
Yeah, and going back to our film knowledge, it makes sense when you mention it because the camera makes a point to stay on Dorothy for a little bit too long as he's like presenting her. Um,
Hmm.
I assumed that it was the setup to have like everything else be named after the Wizard of Oz, but if it's a reference to the OG, that makes sense too. That it's
Yeah.
a beat or two just a bit too long, so people who have seen the original like catch it. Another Easter egg to the original was the little model that she had. I remember that used to be a Universal Studios attraction. It was like a little kiosk that was like behind a glass plane, and you'd
Oh.
press a button, and it would do everything that she did.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. The other thing I wanted to mention. Oh no, you go on. You go on.
Just as long as we're talking about Easter eggs we caught. Of course, there was a monster movie at the theater at the end. Because it's a
Is it
Universal
Frankenstein?
thing. Yeah, it was Frankenstein.
Yeah. I just have to mention this. Glen Powell saying "What's up, chat." I don't know if I've laughed louder in the theater this year. Like, I don't know if I've had
He
a.
said what?
What's
There's
up,
a
chat?
early on, like the first time when they're like chasing, and you know how they sometimes like they would like cut between like the perspective of like a live stream.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like one time where he's driving, he's just like, "What's up, chat?" And I like it. I laughed so fucking hard. Like, it was Glen Powell unsurprisingly kills it in these kind of roles, and I thought it was so funny.
He's just been killing it.
He's just having fun. He's just having fun. More actors need to have fun. Jason, yeah, more fun. He loves it.
And I love it for him. You go ahead.
I was just gonna attach it to like, I think him being with Tom Cruise and Top Gun really helped him.
Mm.
He had it before, and there were roles he's had before, but I definitely feel like he's learned something.
Yeah.
Either from Tom Cruise or from Top Gun, and because it's since then it's just been on like a rocket ship.
Did y'all see
I will
that?
say,
Sorry, go ahead.
super quick aside. I will say, doing the class roster, if you will, I'm just gonna any way I can like tie it back to a school theme, I will. So just bear with me. But like doing this work more has helped me draw more threads together. Like Glen Powell and Joseph Kosinski both worked on Top Gun Maverick together.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now they're back together. So to like catch those themes and see, like, obviously when you get a dynamic duo or you get people who like working together, they continue to make more fun things. And you get to, it's not just about being professional, but then you get to have fun and be professional. I think that does help it make it easier to let your hair down, I guess.
Yeah.
I was going to mention, did y'all see the picture and then like the subsequent clip of the picture of the Twisters premiere with Tom Cruise and Glen Powell, where Tom Cruise is just like the seasoned veteran who like knows to instinctively hold the
Tom
popcorn
Cruise is
bucket.
in public?
Yeah, he was at the premiere with Glen Powell.
I'm shocked at that, to be honest.
They took a picture and Tom Cruise was like holding the popcorn bucket just like center frame, like this like classic professional Hollywood star where he's like, this is the movie that I'm watching. And then Glen Powell's kind of holding it up kind of awkwardly, but then there's like a behind the scenes clip of that where right before the picture's taken, he like nudges Glen Powell to like hold the popcorn up to like, show him to promote this properly by
Hell yeah.
doing that.
The constant professional.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really surprised that Tom Cruise is at that premiere. I didn't think that dude like. I thought he just like did like Scientology shit and then like, I'm gonna try to kill myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the clip of him hanging upside down on a plane. They were filming more shit for Mission Impossible. Yeah, he was like on like an old school propeller plane. He's like upside down. Fucking. Yeah. Some men go to therapy. Some men
are Tom Cruise.
It's the power of Xenu, man. I'm telling you, we gotta get in on that.
I'm good.
Yeah, no, but just saying it, fucking, they're gonna find us and start mailing us shit.
Especially here.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna be so they're gonna be throwing stones from the fucking my street up onto my window.
I love his truck.
Yeah.
Glen
And
Powell's
so
truck.
the last
Sick.
thought I had was, we have all these other callbacks, and I was like, is this the unofficial Toto of the like callbacks? That's the only Wizard of Oz character that hadn't been. I mean, outside of the witch, obviously.
Mm.
But yeah, that truck was super badass, and I love
Mhm.
the Chekhov guns in this movie. And this is like a very good, like for like a film person's beginner movie of like, hey, we're going to introduce things. I'm going to show you how like introducing a thing that's going to come back later works in a movie. This had so many. The second they went to that first first tornado and shot fireworks into it, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this has to come back. This will come back immediately.
Yeah, the digging the little like screws into the
Oh, yeah, the
airport
anchor.
was a good bit right at the end. Don't really know if that would work. I
Federal
just feel
offense,
like it
by the
would
way.
rip
The anchor
the.
looks so short. I didn't trust it.
Why is that a federal offense?
Because you're destroying an airport?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like government property?
Yeah.
Can I ask a dumb question? Are airports public property?
I think anything to do with like air stuff since 9/11, the government's just been like so
That's
touchy
ours.
about. Yeah. Although Oklahoma, maybe not, but just in general,
Gotta
destroying an
feel like the
airport.
regulations in Oklahoma are probably not the same as in other places.
But still, destroying an airport nonetheless. That's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
He's going to New York. It's fine. State rights. I don't know.
Did
But now
y'all
they have to deal with
see?
the outfall or the fallout because the flight got delayed, which I knew because I was like, oh, airport twisters, the flight's going to be delayed. They're gonna get the moment.
Speaking of that moment, did y'all see that there was supposed to be like a kiss at the end?
No. Did they like cut it early?
So from what I saw online, I guess Steven Spielberg, who I guess is associated as like a executive producer or something,
Yeah.
gave a note and was like, "Don't make them kiss." And I, for one, appreciated them not kissing, but somebody at the airport who was there while they were filming, like recorded it, and it was like a pretty long kiss, like a pretty passionate kind of like Hollywood kiss. But they cut it out of the movie.
Absolutely not needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't have it in the movie. But would that have impacted y'all's experience?
It would have been another cheesy thing to happen in the movie.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have minded. Honestly, once they got to the airport, I couldn't let go of the fact that that was Paul Scheer.
It was so distracting. It was so distracting.
I was like, how did this fly? Why is he here? What else have I seen him in? I just like was lost in his career to like actually focus on what was happening in the movie.
Yeah. Because it was one of those things like the whole time because he's in like the background and like his face is full turning. And I'm like,
Paul
this
Scheer?
is, yeah.
What the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. I mean, hey, the strike probably hit him hard. He probably needed a quick buck, but like,
Yeah.
Very distracting.
Yeah, to say you have lines and you're in the movie, but yeah. So I wasn't focused on much of anything else that was happening.
I thought that ending was going to be kind of like a rivalry type thing between Anthony Ramos and Glen Powell because they're both kind of love triangle-esque fighting over the same woman.
Nah, he fumbled the bag.
He fumbled so bad. He had no riz. He had no game.
Well, he lied from the get-go.
Well, was he
He
trying?
was like, "Yeah, we're helping." I think a little bit. I definitely
Since
feel
the
like
beginning.
when he was like, "Oh, hey, do you want to go out and grab something to eat or whatever?" And she's like, "No." And then Glen Powell shows up with a fucking pizza. But I definitely felt that like he was trying a little bit. The problem is that like he was trying to fucking help out a real estate development firm and was just manipulating her, and that was eventually going to blow up in his face. Yeah.
I didn't
But
catch
even
any of that romantic vibe.
dude, even at the beginning, I mean, I know that they're like the two named actors, but when they're like in their college phase, they still he has like a bit of a he has like a look or two that again lingers on a little bit too long at
Mm.
her, and
Oh,
it's
that I
just
didn't
like
catch.
there's clearly something there, like some sort of chemistry. Or he likes her for sure, but she's not even thinking about him because she's with
Well, she got
the
the
other
tall,
guy.
light skinned boyfriend. She didn't need him.
Yeah, exactly. And then even when he comes back to, comes back in her life, she screws him over for Glen Powell, the white guy.
And he like hugs her, right? When
Yeah,
they first see each
like
other, he like gives
immediately.
her like a
Yeah,
big, yeah, like a big hug, and she was like kind of like caught off guard. Yeah,
yeah. He
yeah,
pays
no
for dinner
riz.
or pays for coffee.
Yeah,
Which
negative
I
riz.
don't. Now that I think about it, I'd like to see different iterations of this trope of person in office. Other person says there's someone here to see you. No
Mm.
context, no nothing,
That
and
happens
then
all
you
the
just
time.
stumble into a room with an old friend who somehow made it past security and all these other places.
Yeah,
It
this
hap-
person's getting into like the Weather Channel. Like this isn't like a random office. This is like a massive. Like you can't just walk into these like buildings.
yeah, I mean, he's like a worker for like Storm Next or whatever. So if you
Yeah, I mean,
walk
he's in
into
a
the
suit.
Weather Channel and say, "Hey, I'm here from XX like contractor company. I want to meet with somebody who can like make decisions," I'm sure they can squeeze something in. It's not like he was Glen Powell. Like Glen Powell could not make his way into that
Glenn
New
Powell
York
would have.
office.
Glenn Powell would have gotten into the CEO's office.
Absolutely, he's Glen Powell.
You
Without
kidding
any
me?
context of who his character is, he looks like that.
Do you think the white guy in a suit would have more of a difficulty than the brown guy in a suit? And the white guy has 10 times the charisma? Like, I'm surprised Anthony Ramos didn't get dragged out in handcuffs. Like,
I work here, I promise.
But
Yeah,
that trope happens all the time. Oh, hey, you need to see this.
yeah.
Oh, hey, someone's here, and then just
Who is it? Oh, I don't know.
no, yeah,
Back turn to the door.
Yeah.
No idea who it is. They turn around. Yeah.
yeah. Or they're in like the CEO chair and they turn around.
Yeah.
now I want to write that scene in the way that like people do like will make fun of tropes in like movies and stuff, and I just want to like throw every like reunion trope together into one scene.
Turns around, but the face is still like the lighting is still bad that you can't tell the face. They have to like walk forward and like
Lean
the
forward,
lights.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were dead.
I
I gotta stop talking. Someone's gonna steal this.
Yeah.
no, it's protected, right, Vaughn? Because we mentioned
As long as we
recorded.
post this before someone else does it, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fan that she is like some lowly employee in that office, even though she is clearly like way more experienced than anybody there.
I don't think she was a lowly employee because they were like, "Hey, what do you like?" They like pulled her and like, "What do you think?" And she was able to get a fucking
She
like
doesn't
week
have
or
an
two of
office.
PTO on a dime.
She
Yeah.
doesn't have an office though. She's in the bullpen.
I think that's the nature
Maybe.
of the job, though.
I mean, the supervisor, the guy saw something, and then called the supervisor, and then the supervisor asked for her opinion.
Mm.
It wasn't like the guy went to her. The supervisor went to her. The supervisor knows what she's got, but she's
She's like
just
if
she's
she's a
right off of her.
meteorologist, she might not have like she's not like an editor. We're getting a little bit into journalism, like hierarchy. Like she might be like out on the field more or some shit. You know what I mean? She might not necessarily like be.
She's also right out of
Constantly.
college, so she probably isn't like.
Yeah,
have
that's
that.
the thing. I was confused. Were they high school seniors or were they in college?
I assume they were in college.
They said that they were getting their doctorate. They're in college.
It was doctorate. Okay, because they were
Yeah.
talking about like grant money, and I couldn't figure out if that was like okay. Then she's like might not be right at it. I mean, it's 5 years later, right? I don't know how long it takes
Yeah.
to
I don't
get
know
here.
why, but I assume they were 28 in the as we were seeing the events of the movie.
Yeah, because I don't
That
think
makes
you
sense.
need a doctorate. You don't need a doctorate to be a meteorologist. You just need a master's degree, but you might be able to like get a doctorate in it. I only know that because like one of my journalism professors was like the local weatherman, and he went to like he got like
Like he was on TV.
Syracuse. Yeah.
Oh,
Shout out Professor Sweeney. Yeah. He was on like he's the weather guy on NBC 30, and he like went to Syracuse for journalism, and then got like his master's in meteorology. Yeah.
Right on.
I was talking journalism. Is that it?
Any more thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like silly fun. And based on our criteria, this is me segueing into ratings. Based on our criteria, or like my own criteria, like I always, as a reminder for folks, I look at a thing at like, what are you trying to do, and how well did you do it? Like, what is the expectation, and what did I get? I expected to go in and see, honestly, only like a couple of twisters and see some like fun people like maneuver and try to survive natural disasters. I got that in spades. I want to say twice as many twisters as I expected. At one point, there were twins. We got a chance to, see it do a lot. So for me, because it was good fun, I'd honestly say like on the parabola, um, a positive 7.5.
Yeah, I agree.
A B. I don't know.
I agree. Definitely. I think it's solid, fun movie. Nothing really of substance. This is just sugar. This is just like you just munch, enjoy, consume. And again, even like the marketing for it is just like so great, so much fun. 7.5 positive.
Yeah, 7.5 B.
Nice.
How could it be better? Because you guys always give like improvements.
There can't be more twisters because it hit the sweet spot.
No,
Like
yes,
there was
they
definitely Tavon's point. No, it would have been overkill.
I disagree.
It would've been
No. Lean into the goofy twisters, dude.
No,
You
because
got the night twister, you got the twin twisters, you got the fire twister. Give me an ice
then it starts to
twister.
slide into negative. It starts to slide into negative at that point, and it's like, oh, it's just like there were so many twisters. Like that's not.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to like get any character development because twisters.
Yeah.
For the twisters. Yeah, okay.
Like this is just about as good as this movie could have been.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the nicest way. And the other thing I also want to mention, because I normally rag on it, I'm shocked that this is we took an indie darling director and made like an action movie, and it was really successful. I wanted to mention that before. Like normally I like bang on the drum of like that is not a good idea. But shout out to Liazu Chung because he did a really good job.
Yeah. Homework things to like have made it better. And this is such a general note, but just like make things less obvious.
Yeah. This is going to sound mean. I think those were the Heartland aspects. I'm going to sound like a pretentious dickhead, but sometimes I think there might be some of those like handholdinesses for like stuff like that. Like the network TV type shit.
Like I think about, there's so much that I was clocking throughout the film, but I think about this specific moment when they, were trying to find shelter after like that night rodeo. So the night tornado moment. And we see that that couple were being jerks to the hotel clerk. I was like, oh, they're dying.
And they got their comeuppance. Fuck those
But
guys.
the minute they were mean, I was like, they're gone.
Yeah, this dude's getting sucked up in a tornado.
Yeah.
And also, like, that's how unaware is that guy? There's like alarms sounding, people are screaming, and he's like, the power's out in my room, and it's just like, you got to fix this. It's like,
he could have represented like somebody from one of the coasts. Like he did seem to have like that city savviness kind of thing about him.
I'm going to speak to the manager. I'm going to leave you a negative review on Yelp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his girlfriend's
Yeah,
like, they're fake tornado warnings anyway. Because like, how many times have you gotten like a flash flood warning down in LA, and it's just like, okay, there's not going to be a flood where I'm at right now, or like an earthquake notification, and it's like, okay, there's no earthquake.
Yeah, but I feel a lot of the earthquakes. Remember we were on the podcast and the earthquake was so loud that y'all heard it? Like my shit
well, that's because you were
so
like right there. That was like you were right there though.
Yeah,
my first week in LA. Sorry for cutting you off. On the first week in LA, like all of our glasses were rattling, and we're like, "Oh man, like are the walls this thin that like someone can like mess with? Like someone can like be moving around or like playing music?" And no, it was a fucking earthquake.
Having come from East Coast, where we didn't really have a lot of natural disasters,
None at all.
I remember the
Blizzards,
2012.
Hurricanes is like a Florida thing. We rarely ever get that kind of shit. Every now and then, but
like to go from that to what I thought earthquakes were going to be, and then what I've experienced here. Not to say that they're not catastrophic, but yeah, if you're not like if it's not a high magnitude and you're not in the center of it, it's like a little rumble and you're fine. That attitude towards tornadoes is not helpful.
That's fucking crazy. There's like such a difference.
That's what they represented.
Like there hasn't been a devastating tornado since or earthquake since the 90s, but like you could tell me people die once a month from tornadoes, and I'd believe you.
I'm assuming just like earthquake warnings, though, like tornado warnings affect like a wide area, and so it's like, oh, there's a tornado like I don't know, 25 miles away. And like, yeah, that thing could be here in an instant, but it's still technically 25 miles away. And so if it doesn't hit you and you're just like around the environment where like a lot of this stuff is warning you, but not really like affecting you. Like I think I've gotten a couple tsunami warnings in LA, but it's just like,
shit.
No,
it's surprised not. It's not a bigger deal here though.
Yeah, because
tsunamis are no fucking joke.
They're not.
Like, if tsunami were to hit LA, it would be like a problem.
I think I've seen like maybe 2 or 3 tsunami warnings, and again, they're just like it's like one big wave, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think
you go on.
I think too the other issue is that when we get these warnings about these things, we never really see the damage of the places that did affect. But like in Oklahoma, because in the Midwest, it's all flat. It's everything is so spread out as well. You likely, even if it didn't hit your town, you probably had to drive past the town it did hit, and so you do see, and like I think would take that more seriously.
Yeah, because there's also that wide shot in the movie where I don't know if I think it's the first one where it's just like a helicopter, like a drone that just flies over the debris. And it's like massive and it goes on forever.
Yeah, I don't fuck with tornadoes. Brock Lesnar taught me from an early age not to fuck with F5 tornadoes.
The wrestler?
Yeah, his finisher is called an F5 because he twists you.
Oh. Yeah. I'd just gotten out of the wrestling game when he got in. Or got big. Yeah. Incredible. Okay.
Well, that has been another episode of the After School Cinema Club. It's a pleasure to be back, boys. Big things to come. Our next episode should be Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know about y'all, but it feels like it's like Marvel's back, but maybe it's just the marketing for it. Yeah, I have that same feeling I had before, and we'll put a pin in this conversation for when we record next about the movie. But to me, it feels that same level of like excitement and tension of like, oh man, the next Marvel movie's coming out is what I'm feeling personally.
I think this movie's going to be solid, but I think the Deadpool movies are a little different. Like they're a little bit more standalone-y. To an extent, and I know this movie's going to be different. And there's like more stakes to it. And there's more stakes to it.
Not even to address what you're saying. I think yes, Deadpool is a little different. I think this weekend is specifically unique because San Diego Comic-Con, which is like the big Comic-Con, is this weekend.
Oh, I didn't know
So,
that.
and so like the Deadpool movie is like striking at a really important time.
Oh my god. Okay, thank God I'm going to see it tomorrow because there's definitely probably going to be some like reveals that will then like tie into
Almost certainly.
thing.
Yeah,
I do think it's a very important movie. If this movie bombs,
I don't think
they
it's
are
allowed to. Like the fates cannot allow this movie to bomb.
yeah.
and we're gonna leave a pin in it there. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on socials. Follow us on YouTube.
What's up,
Everything will be in
chat?
the show notes. Send us home, Dylan.
Class dismissed.
No, you got to whisper it because we started with ASMR.
Yeah.